The morning began like any other. The sun slipped gently through the curtains, painting the walls of our home in soft shades of gold. From the kitchen came the sound of clattering pots, and my younger sister's faint humming drifted through the hallway. Dad was already dressed for work, his tie slightly loose, a newspaper folded under his arm. On the surface, life in our family seemed ordinary, peaceful, almost perfect. But that day everything changed. That was the day I wished had never come. It began with a sound, the sharp crash of breaking glass echoing through the house. Everyone rushed to the living room, where pieces of my grandmother's vase lay shattered across the floor. The vase had been her gift, a symbol of love, and one of Mom's most treasured possessions. I stood frozen just a few steps away from the broken pieces. My heart raced, though I hadn't touched it. Before I could even process what had happened, the voices rose against me. "Why would you do this?" my aunt snapped, her eyes narrowing. "He's always careless," another relative muttered, shaking his head. "You never take responsibility," my cousin added with a smirk. Their words rained down like stones. I opened my mouth, desperate to defend myself. "I didn't," my voice cracked. "I swear I didn't touch it." But no one listened. Mom arrived last, her face pale with shock. She looked at the vase, then at me, then at everyone else pointing their fingers. For one brief moment I thought she might defend me. But then she lowered her eyes. That silence hurt more than any word. It wasn't just a vase that broke that morning. It was my heart. The accusations spread quickly. In the living room, in the kitchen, in whispered conversations down the hallway, the story became simpler and harsher. It was my fault. By lunchtime, the weight of blame pressed so heavily on me that even breathing felt difficult. I sat at the table, pushing food around my plate, while everyone else carried on their hushed talks. No one looked at me. But then something happened. My younger sister slid into the chair beside me. She didn't say much. She didn't need to. Her closeness itself was a message. "You're not alone." For the first time all day I felt a spark of hope. That night, after everyone had gone quiet, there was a knock on my door. It was her again. She slipped inside, her small hand clutching mine. "I know you didn't do it," she whispered. Those words were like air to lungs drowning underwater. Tears burned my eyes as I whispered back. "But everyone thinks I did. Even Mom." "Let them think what they want," she said firmly. "I believe you." Her words planted strength in my chest I didn't know I still had. Later, when Dad returned from work, he came into my room. He looked tired, weighed down by the day. He didn't speak right away, just studied my face, as if trying to read the truth in my eyes. Finally he asked, "Tell me what really happened." My throat tightened. No one had asked me that all day. "I didn't do it, Dad," I whispered. "I wasn't even near the vase." He sighed, rubbing his forehead. For a long moment he said nothing. Then, finally, in a quiet voice, he said the words I desperately needed to hear. "I believe you." Even with my father and sister by my side, the storm outside my room grew stronger. Relatives whispered louder. My cousin, the one who smirked every time I entered the room, pushed the story harder than anyone. One evening, my uncle slammed his fist on the table. "This isn't just about a vase," he barked. "It's about his behavior. He's reckless, careless. He has to learn responsibility." I opened my mouth, but my father's voice cut through the noise. "That's enough," Dad said firmly. "You don't know the full story." The room fell silent. My father rarely raised his voice, but when he did, people listened. For the first time, I saw my cousin's smug expression falter. Still, the days dragged on painfully. I felt like a ghost inside my own home, seen only as the cause of anger. Mom kept her distance, torn between her siblings' voices and her love for me. Her silence was almost worse than blame. At night I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The words circled endlessly in my mind. I wish this day would never come. But then, I remembered my sister's whisper. My father's promise. 2 voices against 100. And somehow that was enough to keep me from breaking. One evening, my sister slipped into my room again, holding something in her hand. "Look," she whispered, opening her palm. In it lay a small green marble. I frowned. "What's this?" "I found it near the vase," she explained. "It's not yours. It's our cousin's." My heart skipped a beat. Suddenly it made sense. My cousin often played with those marbles, tossing them around carelessly. Could it be that he was the one who knocked the vase over? The thought struck like lightning. And if it was true, then everything I had endured, the blame, the shame, the silence, had been built on a lie. That night, I held the marble in my hand for a long time, turning it over and over under the dim light of my lamp. Such a small thing. So harmless. Yet it carried the weight of everything I had suffered. If my cousin had really been playing near the vase, if it had been his careless hand that knocked it over, then why had I been the one blamed? The answer was simple and cruel. 'Cause it was easier. I had always been the one who spoke less, who avoided conflict, who let others push me aside. I was the easy target. And when the vase shattered, pointing fingers at me felt natural to them, like feeding their need to control, to find someone to blame quickly. Tears welled in my eyes as I whispered, "All this time, it wasn't even me." The next day I watched my cousin closely. He strutted around the house, his smirk glued to his face. He spoke louder than usual, making sure everyone noticed him. And yet there was something in his eyes, a flicker, a hesitation, whenever the broken vase was mentioned. My sister noticed it too. She leaned close to me and whispered, "He knows something. I can feel it. But how could we prove it?" 2 voices and a marble against the entire family. That evening, Dad returned from work later than usual. He was exhausted, but when he saw the marble in my hand, his expression sharpened. "Where did you find that?" he asked. "My sister found it near the vase," I explained. Dad stared at the marble for a long time, then exhaled slowly. "It's his. No doubt. But how do we make them see?" I asked desperately. "They won't believe me, they never do." Dad placed a hand on my shoulder. "Patience. The truth always comes out. It may take time, but lies cannot live forever." His words were comforting, but the days that followed were brutal. The relatives continued their trial against me. My uncle repeated his accusations about my irresponsibility. My cousin added fuel to the fire, saying things like, "He's just pretending to be innocent." Each word was like a thorn digging deeper into my heart. But I noticed something new. Mom's silence began to crack. She looked at me differently, as if doubt had entered her heart, as if somewhere inside, she wanted to believe me but didn't know how. One afternoon, while I sat in the courtyard staring at the ground, she came and sat beside me. For a while she said nothing. The only sounds were children playing in the street and the rustle of leaves in the wind. Then she sighed and whispered, "I don't know what to believe anymore." I turned to her, pain sharp in my chest. "Believe me, Mom. Please. I didn't do it." Her eyes filled with tears. "But everyone says you did." "Everyone can be wrong," I said softly. "Doesn't a mother know her child better than others?" She looked away, her lips trembling. For the first time since that terrible morning, I saw her heart battling with itself. The breaking point came during a family gathering a week later. Everyone had assembled in the living room to discuss the problem. Me. The air was thick with tension. My relatives sat in a circle, their eyes heavy with judgment. My cousin spoke first, his voice dripping with false confidence. "It's clear he did it. Why are we still talking about this? He should just admit it." The anger in me boiled, but before I could respond, my father's voice rang out. "No," Dad said firmly. "He will not admit to something he didn't do." The room fell silent. My father rarely challenged the elders, but this time, his tone left no space for argument. "And how do you know?" my uncle demanded. "Do you have proof?" That was the moment my sister stood up, her small figure trembling but her voice steady. "I do," she said, holding up the marble. Gasps echoed through the room. She explained how she had found it near the vase. She reminded them all how our cousin often carried those exact marbles, tossing them carelessly around the house. All eyes turned to him. His confident smirk faltered, his face paling under the weight of suspicion. "That proves nothing," he snapped, his voice shaking slightly. "Anyone could have." But Mom interrupted. For the first time, her voice was sharp and certain. "No, that marble is yours. I've seen you playing with them. Tell us the truth." The cousin stammered, eyes darting around the room, searching for escape. Finally, under the pressure of every gaze, he broke. "I didn't mean to," he mumbled, his voice barely audible. "I was playing near the vase. I knocked it by accident." The confession hit the room like thunder. The same relatives who had shouted at me days ago now turned their shocked eyes toward him. Murmurs filled the air. My aunt's face flushed red with shame, while my uncle looked away, unable to meet my father's eyes. And me. I sat frozen, a lump in my throat, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might break through my chest. Tears spilled down my face, not out of anger but out of release. The truth at last had spoken. Dad placed his hand firmly on my shoulder, pride shining in his eyes. My sister grinned through her tears, whispering, "I told you they'd see." Mom pulled me into her arms, her tears soaking my shirt. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I should have believed you. Forgive me." I held her tightly, my voice trembling. "I just needed you to trust me, Mom. That's all." In that moment I realized something powerful. The truth can be buried under lies, can be twisted, ignored, even silenced. But it cannot die. And sometimes all it takes is one person, one sibling, one parent, to keep believing in you until the truth finally shines through. As the days passed, the whispers died. The relatives who had accused me now avoided my eyes, their shame too heavy to confront. The cousin who had lied kept his distance, his arrogance replaced by quiet guilt. But none of that mattered anymore. What mattered was that I wasn't alone. Even when the world turned against me, even when I thought I had lost everything, I had my father, my sister, and finally my mother. Their faith had been enough to carry me through the storm. Sometimes late at night I still think back to that day. The day the vase shattered, the day blame fell like knives, the day I whispered to myself, "I wish this day would never come." And yet, in a strange way, I'm grateful it did. Because it showed me the true meaning of family. Not the relatives who judged me, not the voices that broke me, but the hearts that stood by me, even when it cost them. It taught me that even when the world shouts against you, a single voice of love can drown out 100 lies.